Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman, the program where you can hear Mark Silverman each week talking about your financial future, your retirement, making sure that you can have everything harmonious during your retirement years. You've worked hard all your life and you want to be able to retire and not have to worry about outliving your money. And first of all, Mark, I just want to say it's good to be back with you today.
Hey, Ron, always happy to be here. It's been a while since we've spoke, and I hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. And let me tell folks how to get in touch with you very quickly here, 520-333-7601. You can call that number or you can just shoot a text to that number, whichever is easier for you, 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Of course, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that Mark Silverman's office is in Tucson, but he has folks he serves all over southern Arizona and would love to get acquainted with you. So write down that number. I'll give it to you again in just a few minutes so you can call and make that happen. Our first segment of the show today is, but he's a really nice guy. Very often we see a broker or an advisor who's doing a less than stellar job, but folks continued to work with him simply because they feel he's a nice guy. I thought today we could talk about how ridiculous that really is.
Or girl. Let's not be biased here.
Well, absolutely. It can go either way. Let's talk about how ridiculous that statement is and why it's important for people to be getting the help and advice that they really need instead of just maintaining a relationship for strictly personal reasons. First of all, if someone comes in and they say to you, Mark, my portfolio hasn't done very well for the last several years, but he's a really nice guy, so I haven't really wanted to make a change. What's your advice to that person?
Well, everybody should be making money in this market if you're in the stock market. I assume everybody's not in the S&P 500, but if you look and see what the stock markets have done since 2009, we're in the second longest bull market we've ever been in. So everybody should be making money. If you're not making money, then it's a lot harder not to be making money right now, in my opinion, than it is to be making money. But you need to make sure that they're matching your risk tolerance and you're getting the right advice that's going to keep you on track for your goals. And that process should be managed and should be actively managed. If you're working with someone who's more reactive than proactive, where you only hear from them when you need something or when you call them, that's probably not a great relationship. I can tell you with our clients, we reach out to them. We meet with our clients several times a year, depending on the size of the relationship. And we're always here for our clients and actively making sure we're doing the best job that we possibly can. If you're not getting that type of advice or that type of value, then maybe you should be talking to some other people and seeing what else is out there.
Mark, I know that you've been doing this for a very long time, and one of the best things you do is you break it down so that, it's simple. Everybody can understand exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes financial terms can be confusing to a lot of folks who don't do it all the time. What if someone says to you, I don't usually understand much of what my broker says, or my advisor, or whomever it may be, and I'm always really confused after we meet, but I guess money just isn't really my thing. Plus, our kids were in school together, and again, here's that phrase, he's a good guy. What do you tell them?
Or good gal, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It always baffles me how some advisors like to speak and use jargon that the clients can understand. I think it doesn't do any good to speak to a client and try to explain things if they can't understand what you're talking about. Yes, some of the stuff that we're talking about can be confusing, but again, it should be explained so people can really understand it. And I think that's the important thing. But again, one of the things that I like about doing the radio show is people actually can hear me speak. And I can't tell you how many people have come in and said, well, I called you because you make sense. I can understand what you're talking about and you seem reasonable. But that's the point. The point is, yes, a lot of this stuff can be complicated, but it shouldn't be to the point where we're talking over somebody's heads and explaining things that they can't understand. If you're invested in something that you don't truly understand, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. You should know the basis of what you're in and be able to ask questions and get answers that you can understand.
Absolutely. And here's a number that you can very easily understand, 520-333-7601. You can call that number or send a text, 520-333-7601. I'd also like to invite you to check out Mark's website, excellent website, savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. Mark, if a person is in your office and that person says, we never get together for reviews and I rarely get my phone calls returned, but I know he or she is really busy and he or she worked with my dad for many years, so I assume that he or she is taking care of me. That's kind of ridiculous too, isn't it?
It is, and you shouldn't assume. I mean, I can tell you most advisors are reactive. What I mean by that is they're there to buy and they're there for you to sell you investment or insurance products. And so, they only make money when you buy or sell something. And typically it's you reach out to them when you have a question and hopefully they get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. But that's not the type of relationship people want, in my opinion. I think people want a proactive relationship where they're working with someone who's out there really looking after their needs and being proactive and reaching out and calling you to make sure that you come in for your reviews and being able to be there when you have questions if something comes up that you need answered. We're fee-based advisors, and even I've seen in some cases where you're working with the fee-based advisor, we've seen it where the advisors don't reach out for reviews on a regular basis, and that expectation should be set up front. And so you should know how often you're going to be meeting with your advisor at a minimum. We meet with our clients on average between 2 to 4 times a year, depending on the relationship. And I think you need to know that up front before you go in. And if you're not getting that, then you're paying for something that you're not receiving.
I know you take really good care of your clients, Mark, and people make all kinds of excuses for their advisors who aren't really doing much of a job for them. What if someone says he or she doesn't really specialize in retirement planning, but this person is an old college friend, so I've stuck with him or her? That's another ridiculous reason for staying with somebody.
It is. I mean, you want to make sure the advisor has the training and the knowledge to help you, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And if your needs change and evolve, you need to be working with someone that can change and evolve with you. I'm a CFP, a certified financial planner, so I'm well versed in estate planning, tax planning, investment management, insurance, education planning, all these different things. And so working with all these different pieces, I know how that relates to people who are, getting close to retirement, who are preparing for their retirement, or a big segment of our clients are people who are already retired and making sure that they can maintain their lifestyle throughout their living years. And so it's important that you work with someone that has the expertise and can do that for you, because if they can't, you want to speak with someone who's going to benefit and can give you the right advice.
Mark, I know that there are lots of folks out there listening today who say, this Mark Silverman guy makes a lot of sense. I'd like to get acquainted with him and find out what he can do for me. What do you have to offer that person who might call your office?
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process, and we call it the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we'll discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This becomes the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to me with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
It's never too late to get your act together, financially speaking. 520-333-7601. You can call that number right now. That is 520-333-7601. If you're more comfortable texting, then by all means, send a text, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman will put your portfolio through a financial physical to make sure it's up to the test to survive and thrive in retirement. 520-333-7601. Call or text. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional, the president of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. We'll have more coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman after this.
At Silverman and Associates, we believe you deserve a financial plan that's customized to your situation. That's because no one strategy could possibly fit your unique needs and goals. From strategizing to execution, our goal is to give you undivided attention. Come in for a visit today and learn what it looks like to put your retirement dreams into action. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and there are a lot of myths out there when you start talking about financial planning, and we'll get to those in just a moment. But I wanted to tell you how to get in touch with Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates. First of all, you can go to savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. But the most immediate way to get in touch with Mark's office is 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. You can call that number, or you can send a text to that number with your contact information, and Mark will get back with you, and you can come in and have a conversation. It's just that simple. 520-333-7601. Once again, you can call or text. And we talked about myths. There are lots of myths out there, and let's call this segment of the show Mythbusters. Who you going to call, Mark? Mythbusters.
That's actually a show on TV. I've watched it.
Oh, really?
It's on, I think, the Science Channel. Yeah.
Well, I was making kind of a lame reference to Ghostbusters,
Okay.
but
Ghostbusters. Okay.
I'm not afraid of no myth.
Ghost. There you go.
We'll start the financial myth, and you explain why it's a myth, okay? Number one on the list here, shifting from stocks to bonds removes the volatility from your portfolio. Why is that a myth?
It doesn't remove the volatility. It will reduce the volatility. I mean, just if you own bonds, especially if you're owning them in a mutual fund or even an ETF, there's no maturity date. So it doesn't mean you can't lose money. But it would reduce, bonds are less risky than stocks typically. So it would reduce the volatility, but it doesn't remove it completely. So that's an important distinction.
Okay, here's another one for you. Once you're retired, life insurance is no longer necessary. Myth or truth?
No, I think there's still a need for life insurance. Not for everybody, but there are certain cases where we could use life insurance. It could be used for, maybe you had the life insurance that you owned when you were working. The need for it, the way you had purchased it, was no longer necessary, but maybe it makes sense to replace it with something else that can provide current needs, where maybe you want to use life insurance to, cover long-term care expenses, which has a living care benefit rider. We do that a lot here in the office. Or you're going to be using the life insurance for retirement income purposes. Maybe you're self-employed and you don't have a retirement plan through that you've set up a 401k or anything that through if you're self-employed. So maybe you're using life insurance to create retirement income down the road. Maybe you're using it for some estate planning purposes or gifting money for legacy purposes. So there's always a need for life insurance for many people. Not always, but if you have an old policy before you just cancel it, you may want to look at replacing it for something that maybe better suits your needs at this point in time.
We're talking to Mark Silverman on Saving with Silverman, and I would call you a myth buster, Mark, because you always tell the truth. You always break it down. There are lots of myths out there, and one that I know you've heard 1,000 times, if you've heard it once: you'll need less income when you're retired than you need while you're working. That's not necessarily the case.
That's not necessarily the case. Some people will say you need 70 to 80% of your working income in retirement, and I've seen that be the case. But I've seen more times where people are spending just as much as they were working than they are in retirement. I think the key distinction there is to understand that working is occupying your time. When you're retired, you have more time, and unfortunately, a lot of things that you're going to be doing in retirement are going to require you to spend money. Whether it be traveling, playing golf, or whatever it might be. So it's important to understand that. In some cases, too, I've seen where people actually spend more in retirement than they did when they were working. So I think a fair assessment is you probably will spend around the same amount of money in retirement that you are when you're working. And I think that's a fair number. But everybody's situation is different. That's why we go through a budget worksheet exercise with people to really try to uncover what they might be spending in retirement.
If you're interested in getting the financial physical, and it's just as important as getting a physical when you go to your doctor on a regular basis, then call this number or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. That, of course, will put you through to Mark Silverman's office, Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, go ahead and do that, and you can get the financial physical down the road. I know you're going to enjoy getting to know Mark Silverman, and he can certainly help you. We're talking about myths that are out there in the financial world, and here's another one. You'll probably be in a lower tax bracket once you retire.
That's not necessarily the case either. So that would be a myth. The idea was, and when I first started in this business over 20 years ago, we were told, when people put money into an IRA account, for example, they get the deduction up front. And then once they retire, you're going to be taking the money out when you're retired and you'll be in a much lower tax bracket. Truth be told, what happens is once you're retired, a lot of people have their mortgage paid off, so they don't have any deduction there. The kids are usually out of the house, so they don't have a deduction there. So they don't have a lot of deductions. So in some cases, especially if you have, Social Security, maybe you're lucky enough to have a pension and those sorts of things, you might be in a similar tax bracket that you were when you were working, and in some cases, maybe even higher. So don't just assume you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make.
Mark, here's one that I can understand sort of how some people might believe this because of all the advances we made in technology recently, but financial planning today is much easier to do without professional help because of all the technology that's available. But you can get in real trouble if you rely simply on technology and doing it yourself, and that's why you need the help of a certified financial planner professional like Mark Silverman.
There's a lot of tools that are out there on the internet, which is better than what they used to be, that's for sure. But really interpreting how to use the tools and making sure you're not making mistakes with your retirement, because this is, I say it's second to health. Health is number one. Your retirement or your financial well-being is probably number two, in my opinion. So it's important that you understand. And that's why when people engage us and they ask us questions, we could answer the questions of people's concerns. But just as importantly, we'll answer concerns or bring up concerns that they didn't even know to ask. And which with software, if you don't know what you're doing, maybe it'll give you the answer that you're looking for, but you don't really look at the whole picture. How are you looking at healthcare? Are you looking at long-term care? What's the tax situation going to be like? You want somebody that's going to look at all the different pieces of your retirement puzzle to make sure that you're doing the best job you can for you and your family. So, having the tool and having the software is great, but it's more to it than just the software.
A lot of people out there listening to the show today, Mark, who may have been trying to do all this stuff by themselves over the years, and maybe you've done a good job, maybe you haven't, maybe you're working with an advisor and you'd like to get a second opinion. I know that Mark would love to talk with you, and I'm going to give that number out just a moment from now and let you know how you can get in touch with Silverman and Associates. But Mark, what do you have to offer those folks out there who are listening today but really want to get to know you?
Ron, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one local on the radio here in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call that number or send a text if you prefer to do that. Get the financial physical. This does not involve a stethoscope or checking your blood pressure, doing any kind of blood work, but it's just kind of the same from a financial standpoint. Everybody needs to get one on a regular basis. And of course, Mark Silverman has been doing this for a very long time, helping folks all over the Tucson area. His office located right in Tucson, wherever you are in southern Arizona. A lot of folks come in all the time on a regular basis and talk with Mark Silverman, and we'd like for you to call and get acquainted as well. 520-333-7601. Call or text. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. Mark Silverman, the star of our show. I'm Ron Stutz. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Planning for retirement shouldn't be a mystery. So why is it so easy to get bogged down with financial terms and advisors who try to offer you a sales pitch? At Silverman & Associates, Mark Silverman and his team take pride in looking after their clients' best interests. They strive to educate you about the financial world. If you want a customized financial plan that's unique to your goals, schedule a visit with the team today. Schedule a complimentary review of your situation. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
It's time to get to know Mark Silverman just a little bit better here on Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. And he, of course, your certified financial planner professional at Silverman & Associates. And this is the portion of the show where we give you the opportunity to get to know Mark just a little bit better. And Mark, I want to ask you a question here. I know that you like movies. I know you watch a movie every now and then. What is your favorite movie genre? If you had to pick, what kind of movie do you like?
I like suspense, drama, some type of realistic, like a believable drama, those sorts of things, suspense.
So you're not into superhero movies and things like that?
Not the action ones that are really hard to believe, impossible to believe, more so the realistic ones.
Some that are real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or based on a true story, that sort of thing.
How about romantic comedy?
I've seen a few, not my favorite, but
Yeah.
I'll watch them if I have to.
Okay. What is it about the realistic movies that really get you? I mean, because you just think that this is conceivable, this could actually happen in real life?
Yeah, I mean, if it's too far-fetched, it just gets to the point where it's kind of ridiculous, especially with like these action movies where the car's flipping over 10 times and the guy gets out. And,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he gets shot with a gun and then he's still running around. I mean, just if it's too hard to believe, it gets too much. It's too far-fetched for me.
Folks, Mark Silverman is a real guy. He likes normal circumstances and doesn't live in a fantasy world. I can say that much about him. So maybe that's what we can learn from that. Hey, Mark, thanks a lot. We'll be back with more on Saving with Silverman in a moment.
Mark Silverman is a lifelong Arizonan, and his firm is based right here in Tucson. When you come in for a visit, you can expect someone who's familiar with your community. At Silverman and Associates, our relationship with you is most important to us. We want to build you a financial plan that's unique to your goals. No generic products, no corporate red tape, just friendly folks looking to give you a comprehensive approach to retirement planning. Come in for a visit today and let us help you build a meaningful retirement. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. If you'd like to find out more about Mark Silverman's business, you can go to savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. Very easy to remember website address, savingwithsilverman.com. But the phone number is 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark, I know that you really help folks be responsible when it comes to their financial planning, and even for people who've been very responsible with their money over the years, entering retirement can still be a real challenge because it's such a different stage of life, and some folks just aren't prepared for that. Now, let's talk about some of the missteps that even responsible savers can make. Number one, a lot of folks just get too enamored with cash, and that can be a real mistake.
It can. And, being a certified financial planner, we recommend clients, if you're still working, you want at least 3 to 6 months of expenses should be liquid. So let's say you're spending $5,000 a month. You should have somewhere between $15,000 to $30,000 that should be liquid emergency funds that you can get to without surrender charges, fees, penalties, etc. We can argue that you could probably use a home equity line if that's available as well, but something you can get the money to, if the air conditioning breaks or whatever it might be. So you should have a minimum of 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. If you're retired, a lot of times we'll even be more conservative, and I'll say, let's go 12 months. So if you're spending $5,000 a month, that is your budget. Let's say you keep $60,000 liquid. You don't want more than that. If you do, the problem is going to be is you're losing purchasing power because of this thing called inflation. So, we see people that don't have enough liquidity. We see people that have too much liquidity, and it could be a problem either way. But it's important that you have liquidity, but you want to have the right amount, and that's something we can help you with.
Mark, a lot of people are really aggressive, taking a lot of risk when they're younger, but by the time you get to thinking very seriously about your retirement, you need to be more careful with things and not take so much risk, because you really should be in more of a preservation mode than an accumulation mode that you were decades ago.
Yeah, if you're moving what we call accumulation mode to distribution mode, so you're moving from working and saving to where you're going to be living off your assets in retirement, you want to make sure that the risk is always managed appropriately. If you're still 20, 30 years away from retirement, I wouldn't worry about the market right now. But I can tell you, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. So a correction is coming. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but I can guarantee you we're one day closer each day. And so it's important that you understand the risk that you're taking. So if you're within, say, 10 years or 5 years, or you're already in retirement, you want to have somebody look at the risk that you're taking and show you what the downside is going to be when we do finally have a correction. Can you afford to take a big hit? Maybe you do, maybe you can't. We don't know. And so, again, it's an important time to really look at this stuff. And we have software that we use with our clients or people that come in, and we can actually show them how much risk they're taking versus what they're comfortable with, versus how are they on track to achieve their goals with the right amount of risk that they're comfortable taking. So It's important. It's a big component, but people are in a mode where there's a lot of greed that's out there because the markets have done so well, kind of like we saw up until 2007, where everybody wanted a piece of the action, if you will. So it's important that you understand that and just make sure you don't get burnt.
It would be really wonderful if you had a crystal ball and you could predict exactly when that downturn is going to happen. But of course, nobody can tell you exactly when that's going to happen. But as Mark says, it's going to happen at some point. And every day that goes by, we're one step closer to it, whenever that may be. Another thing that really bites people is you shouldn't forget about the tax time bomb. Some people just kind of forget to consider that.
Yeah, so a lot of people do a great job of saving money, especially in their retirement accounts, whether it be IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, thrift savings plans or TSPs. And so a lot of their investment nest egg is in these type of accounts. The problem is once you hit age 70 and a half, you have to start taking what's known as required minimum distributions. And so there's a formula that they use, and you have to take a minimum. You can't take less, you can take more, but whatever comes out is taxed as ordinary income. So if you have a lot of money saved up, and if you're married and your spouse has a lot of money saved up in these accounts, you're going to have a lot more taxable income than you probably need. And so there's things that you can do beforehand, such as doing, Roth IRA conversions and those sorts of things. And that's why it's important that you work with a professional that knows about these strategies that can help you, so you're not in a situation where you have these huge RMDs that you have to take on money that you're not spending. And so there are things that you can do if you're proactive about it.
We're talking about how to be a responsible retiree, and a lot of people have psychologically, they have a problem when they go from having a regular paycheck to then retiring and then actually taking money out of the money that you've been able to save over the years and you've used to prepare for your retirement. And I guess probably the best thing, and you probably have to advise people to do this all the time, actually live a little and enjoy your retirement.
Yeah, what's the sense of retiring if you are just sitting on the couch watching TV all day, if you don't have money to do the things that you want to do? To me, if I'm going to be retired, I would think that you're doing things that you couldn't do when you were working. That's the beauty of being retired. What gives us peace of mind, what gives our clients peace of mind, is having a plan so we can establish what goals and objectives and values and those sorts of things that are important, what's on their bucket list, and really categorize those things and see what's achievable so you can go out confidently and know, I'm going to be okay, I'm not going to run out of money, where most people don't. What most people do is they just spend money and then realize maybe they're too short and they have to go back to work or do something to make some more money. And if you're healthy enough, that's great. But if you're not, that's a big problem. So that's why we take planning so seriously and really help people understand and get a good idea of what their goals and objectives are, what things they want to accomplish, what years, how much, all these different things. Not saying everybody can achieve everything they want to achieve, but at least our clients know what's possible. And we can really help them in that regard. And that's what planning is all about, rather than just selling somebody investment or insurance products and not really knowing where they stand as an advisor, as well as the clients don't know where they stand either.
Going back to work is really great for some folks if you actually want to do that, but nobody wants to go back to work just because you have to financially to make ends meet. So you certainly don't want to get into that situation. Mark, I know that there are a lot of people out there listening today who would like to give you a call and come in and have a visit in your office in Tucson. What do you have to offer those folks?
Sure. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we'll discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only local one here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. Call or text. We give you that number so many times during the show because it's so important. Mark can give you all kinds of good generic advice here on the radio show every week, but can't really get specific when it comes to your individual situation because we're all different. There's no cookie cutter solution when it comes to financial planning, getting ready for retirement. There are certain things that have to be considered, and everybody's situation is different. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. 520-333-7601. That number will put you through to Silverman and Associates. Of course, Mark is the president. He will get back with you. You can arrange a time to come in and have a conversation, and that's all we ask. There's no obligation, no cost. That initial get-together, 520-333-7601. You can call that number or you can send a text. Just leave your contact information and you can make it happen. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional at Silverman and Associates. Saving with Silverman continues after this.
Did you know that Mark Silverman and his team offer a complimentary Get Acquainted meeting where you can learn more about what he can do for you? The goal is to determine whether you might be a good fit for each other. That's because the folks at Silverman and Associates are all about building long-standing relationships. They aren't offering you a slick sales pitch or a get-rich-quick approach to retirement. Instead, Mark offers a simpler approach to investing. It's based upon your goals, and his strategies are tailored to your needs. To find out more about his unique planning process, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
You've got questions. We've got answers. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. And wherever you are in Tucson, anywhere in southern Arizona, Mark can certainly help you with your financial planning for your retirement. And the number to call or text is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Get in touch with Mark Silverman, and he will call you back. And you can arrange a time to come in and have a conversation about your situation. Again, that number is 520-333-7601. Call or text. It is story time. And Mark, I wonder if you'll take a moment to tell us about a time when you were able to save someone a significant amount of money on taxes because of good planning.
Sure. Actually, we do this all the time, but an example that I'll use now is one of my larger clients, because I'm a firm believer, it's not what you make, it's what you make after taxes and fees have been paid. And so, making smart choices about as far as which account you should take money from to minimize the taxable impact is an important thing. And so one of the things that we do when we manage money is a thing called tax loss harvesting. And so what that means is making sure that we can offset gains and losses wherever possible. And it really is for the average person, most people don't understand how that works, but that's a service that we provide our clients. And really at the end of the day, what it does is it puts more money in our clients' pockets and less in Uncle Sam's. It's not anything illegal. We're not saying to avoid taxes. What we're doing is minimizing the taxable impact by making smarter choices as far as offsetting, capital gains versus capital losses and doing that in a tax efficient manner. So for the average layperson, it's something that's very hard to do on your own, but we do that for our clients, and it has a tremendous impact on what our clients can receive after taxes have been paid. So again, if you haven't heard of it, it's called tax loss harvesting. If you're working with an advisor, it's something that you should bring up to them and see if this doesn't apply to IRA accounts, but it does apply to their taxable or what we call non-qualified accounts. And it really makes a big difference. And we've seen it where, if depending on somebody's tax situation, they could be savings upwards of up almost 60% net of all taxes.
Mark, I've said several times on the show that, we all want to pay our fair share in taxes, but we don't want to pay more than our fair share. Don't want to pay more than we have to.
Absolutely right. So it does make a decision. And if you're not working with someone that's asking about taxes, we look at tax returns with our clients. We work with our clients' CPAs, and we'll make referrals out to CPAs if they don't have those people in place. But really making sure that we're giving the right advice that's always in their best interest. And taxes is a big part of the equation.
There are so many instances where Mark Silverman has saved money for someone on taxes or whatever the case may be, saved them from making a big mistake money-wise. And if you would like to get in touch and to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman, 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. Again, that is 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman at Silverman & Associates in Tucson. We'll have more coming up on today's Saving with Silverman after this quick timeout.
Life is complicated. It's full of twists and turns and complex issues. The last things you need when planning your financial future are confusing numbers and advisors who just offer you a sales pitch. We believe there's a simpler way to invest. Your financial plan should be built on a plan that's made just for you. It's all about discovering your goals and designing a strategy that will help you get where you want to go. And don't worry, we'll track your progress along the way. Stop wandering your way through your investing life. Come in for a visit today. To schedule a visit, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Do you ever feel like you need Superman to help you with your financial crisis?
I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Well, we're not superheroes, but we can save the day when it comes to your finances. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with the amazing Mark Silverman. I say amazing because he gives out a lot of good information here on the radio show, but really you need to get in touch with Mark's office and arrange a time where you can come in and sit down face-to-face and talk about these things. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call that number or text. Mark's planning process is called the financial physical, so just as you go to see your doctor on a regular basis, a financial physical can reveal a lot of things about your financial condition. And certainly, there is no reason not to get one. Even if you're working with an advisor already, get a second opinion, just like you would with a doctor. 520-333-7601 is your number to get in touch with Silverman and Associates. Time now for the request line, and as always, Mark, we have some great questions that have come in. First of all, Tom in Marana says, what kind of annual return should I be seeking on investments during my retirement?
Well, it just depends on your risk tolerance. And so where you are, it depends on two things. One is your comfort level. And if you're married, you and your spouse's comfort level. And then also where you are in relation to your goals. I mean, if you just retired, do you have a 30-year retirement? Do you have a 35-year retirement? So we want to make sure that you don't run out of money. We use very, very reasonable rates of return here in the office when we do projections with our financial planning software. So I would say, depending on where you are in that scope, I would say somewhere maybe between the 3 to 7% range is a fair number, depending on how much risk you're willing to accept and that sort of thing. But that's why it's important that you have a plan. Obviously, the last couple of years, the markets have done a lot better than that. Doesn't mean you can't do better, but you don't want to use those projecting forward. And I think that's a big problem. I always give the example. About 2 years ago, I was meeting with someone, actually came in from the radio, and they were working with an advisor, and they had some spreadsheet that they had given them, and they were using an 11% rate of return for projections, which is in my opinion, crazy. You can't expect that type of rate of return. Can our clients get those rates of return in certain years? Certainly, but it's not something you should expect on a continuous basis. So it's a great question, but again, we need to know a little bit more about your risk tolerance and then where you are in relation to your goals and what you're looking to achieve in retirement.
My goodness. Great question from Tom. And Tom, hope that helps, but you really need to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman about your situation. Hope things are going well today in Marana. Next question here from Emily in Vale. Emily says, how important are the letters that some financial advisors have after their name? I don't know what any of those letters mean.
Well, that's a great question, Emily. And, sometimes it does get a little overwhelming when you see somebody's card and they have all sorts of letters after their name. I'm a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. I, would argue that that's probably the best designation as far as what we do in helping clients. We're vetted. We have to go through a process. We have to do continuing education. We're well versed in different topics. You can go to the CFP website and look for advisors. If I was looking to hire an advisor, I'd make sure they're a CFP. If you're working with someone now that's not, I would ask him or her why they're not a CFP. You're probably not going to get a very good answer. I can tell you that. But there's also other people that have different acronyms after their name. Some are more specialized for different things. And on the other hand, some are kind of have no relevance at all, meaning they're very easy to get. I've seen some of them, and I'm not going to mention which ones, but there are some designations that are out there that you can sit down and get within 2 hours with an open book test and pay a fee, and you've got that designation. That doesn't hold any weight to me, and I don't think that helps anybody. But you really need to understand it, what that designation means. But a CFP is probably the best designation as far as what we do. Chartered Financial Consultant's also a good one. I don't think it is as good as a CFP, in my opinion, but those are the things that you'd be looking for when working with clients.
Mark, we have time for one more question today. It comes from Alex in Rita Ranch. And Alex says, I've seen a lot of growth in my 401k recently, which has been nice, but I feel that I should capture these gains and take risk off the table. On the other hand, what if the market keeps going up for another year or two and I miss out on all that growth?
Well, Alex, it's a great question. It's a catch-22, right? You don't want to pull that out completely and then see the market continue to run, and you don't want to stay in it and suffer a correction. It really depends, again, going kind of back to, it's been the theme as far as you really want to understand what's your risk tolerance, where are you in relation to retirement? Are you within 5 or 10 years? If you're, getting close to retirement, that's something you want to look at. If you are, say 20, 30 years away from retirement, I wouldn't be too concerned because I think you'll be better off at that point if you are maintaining the risk appropriately. But you do want to have somebody sit down, if you're working with an advisor, have them evaluate where you're at. Again, we have software that we can do where we can figure out what your risk tolerance is and then show you how much risk you're in there. And we can back test and show you if we had another financial crisis, which was, late 07 to early 09, how much you would stand to lose if that were to happen again, those sorts of things. So it's important that you do that. That's, again, another reason why planning is so important, to make sure that you're on track. Maybe you don't need as much risk in your portfolio as you think you do. Maybe you're already on track and you've saved enough, and given what the markets have done, maybe you've accumulated enough in your accounts to where you can do everything that you're looking to achieve. That's an important distinction to know, but you need a financial plan in order to do that.
Mark, a lot of people send us questions each week, and certainly a lot of people listen to the radio show, but all of these people have the opportunity to come in and sit down and have a conversation with you about their own individual, unique situation. And everybody's situation is different. What do you have to offer those folks who may finally decide to go ahead and take that step, make the phone call, or send a text and make it happen?
Sure, Ron. So I just had the opportunity to answer a couple questions. So now it's my chance to ask you a question. Here's a simple question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients, they become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not, If you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Mark Silverman's planning process is called the Financial Physical. You can get one. Call this number or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You've been listening to the show today. You've heard a lot of things that make a lot of sense. And the best thing to do is to come in and have a face-to-face conversation about this situation as it relates to your individual life, your lifestyle, what your hopes and dreams are for your retirement years. 520-333-7601. Call or text. That is 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional, the president of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, he would like to get together with you and to get to know you, and vice versa. Our program is called Saving with Silverman, and Mark, it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Ron, always happy to be here, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you got some value. If I could be of help, please let us know.
Join us again next week for the next edition of Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman.
Silverman and Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.